What's up, everybody? This is Jared with Capture the Magic, and in today's video, I'm going to give my review on Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, as I've gotten to ride this ride about 3 or 4 times now, and just give my overall opinion about the ride, the queue, the building, and overall how this ride is as an attraction. Now, obviously, it's probably not going to come as a shock that this ride has gotten a lot of high marks from a lot of people, myself included, but I haven't done an actual dedicated video talking about it, and I just wanted to because I really do like this ride and I want to talk about it. And if you haven't gone or kind of borderline about if you want to do this, perhaps this will help you what to expect from this, and if you're going to go to Epic Universe anytime soon. So the backstory of this ride is from Universal's website. It says, Universal Orlando's most terrifying attraction yet. The state-of-the-art dark ride takes guests deep into the catacombs of Frankenstein Manor, where Dr. Victoria Frankenstein conducts her twisted experiments in a vain display of her genius. She invites guests into her laboratory to witness a demonstration of her ability to control monsters. But her plans go awry when her attempts to control the most dangerous of monsters, Dracula, fails, unleashing a horde of enraged monsters. Guests are then thrust into an intense ride through the darkness as they try to evade the grasp of the Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Brides of Dracula, and others. So that's the description of the ride. The ride building itself, like obviously when you walk into Dark Universe, one of the first things you will see, or sort of the centerpiece of that land, is the Frankenstein Manor. And visually from the outside, this thing is gorgeous. It absolutely looks amazing. It's perhaps the best themed building I've ever seen in a theme park. It looks like a building that has been there for perhaps hundreds of years. At night, this thing has pulsating electricity. Visually, I think this whole land was meant to be experienced at night. So I think if you go in here during the evening time, it's going to have a different feel in here versus in the daytime. But from the outside looking in, I don't know of a better first impression of a ride building or a ride queue than this attraction. So from the visuals alone, it's a great first impression. Walking through the queue, the details in here are really great. It tells a story in the queue. You learn a lot about, if you pay attention and read some of the things in here, you get a background on Victoria Frankenstein, the family history, some of the failed experiments, like, current experiments that give you more background into some, what's been going on with, the Frankenstein's monster, some of these other, monsters in this ride. You also get some, footage that they have that's kind of eerie. Like, it has a lot of really cool aspects and really does tell a story throughout the entire queue. So I would say from a queue standpoint alone, not only from the visuals, but just going through the queue, it is one of the better story queues you will find in terms of, if you really read everything through here, take the time to look at it, it does set up, what to experience and kind of adds to the overall attraction as well. I'd say kind of the centerpiece of the queue is sort of the grand staircase. So when you first walk in, you will see this staircase, but usually, unless it's a very short line, you go through more of the queue that eventually takes you up this staircase. It's got these kind of eerie paintings on the sides. You also see some portraits, and really basically setting the scene that there is some sinister stuff that happens here, and it's not a happy place, I guess you could say. There's been some things that have happened here clearly, and it's almost like a warning of, if you keep going further, you're going to encounter more scary things through here, and I think it does a really good job of setting that tone. Also, the other thing in here is there's pulsating that you will see from the outside, especially at night, but there's like pulsating blue electricity that kind of runs all through the queue. So you get this feeling that even though you're not on the ride yet, you're still feeling the effects of things that are going on this ride, like experiments going on and things like that. So it kind of, even though you're supposed to be this old manor, it's been updated as it's, obviously they have electricity and things like that and modern technology, but you get this sort of eeriness about being in there as you continue to go further and further into the queue. And you can really tell with this, obviously Universal is known for Halloween Horror Nights, that they took Halloween Horror Nights and kind of made it into a ride. It doesn't have all the aspects of a Halloween Horror Night haunted house, but it does have a lot of the things you would see in there where you're going through and just sort of setting the tone and all the details in here. You can definitely tell if you've been to Halloween Horror Nights, they took a lot of inspiration from how, that event. And I mean, you even walk through like the study where you see, like different elements. You see a trunk that's got, it's labeled that has body parts in it. You've got different lighting in that area as well. So you go through different rooms that tell a little bit of a different story or a piece of the story that continues to build. And probably one of, if not the coolest part of the queue, is actually you come up on a Frankenstein's monster, not the current version, but like a previous failed version of it that kind of has it's like sitting right there in a case, and then it has a little like x-ray screen kind of talking about what went wrong with this. So visually speaking, that is really cool to see. You also get an idea of, going through the queue, how Dr. Victoria Frankenstein is going to capture Dracula and things like that. And kind of gives you an idea of just how powerful Dracula is. Get a little foreboding about that as you know going through the pre-show and things, that Dracula is very powerful. He and Frankenstein do not get along. That is something as well. If you do the meet and greet outside the ride and in the land as well with the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, if you mention Dracula, he'll give you a little bit of a reaction because they do not get along very well. But as you go further in the queue, eventually you get to the pre-show where you encounter Igor. And he kind of gives a description of what's going on here in a video, kind of gives you a little bit of, you have the small Kuka arm that kind of gives you an idea of what this ride will do. But it kind of set, again, you're just like in this room that's kind of an eerie lit room, definitely builds into the ride. Once you leave that, then you go into the pre-show where you have an animatronic of Dr. Victoria Frankenstein and Frankenstein. And these animatronics are great. I mean, it wouldn't come as a surprise that some people may at first glance think that, that's actually, a real person they're talking, but the Frankenstein's monster animatronic is also very impressive. He's huge. And, some of the timing sometimes in some of the preview shows have been off a little bit. So we'll see if they fix some of that for opening day. But overall, the pre-show there is a great first glimpse at some of these animatronics that you may have heard about, and just seeing kind of up close and personal how good they are. It definitely gives you a little bit of a wow factor before you even get onto the ride. Then in here, you will go into where you can put things in a locker. And I do like how Universal with Epic Universe has done these locker systems, as if you've experienced locker systems with Green Gots, for instance, over in the studio side, you've got people coming and going, and it's just a giant cluster of people trying to get through that. But you go on one side, everybody can get to lockers. You may have to wait a few minutes here and there, but for the most part, you can get into your locker very easily, use facial recognition for it. And then when you come off the attraction, you just access that locker from the back side. So you're not fighting with people coming into the attraction or going against the grain. It's a very kind of more of a seamless way to do this. So I do like how they've done that. But you then go through there, and then you go through another room where you can see Dracula has gotten out, as you see his coffin. And you're like, oh no, he's not where he's supposed to be. So obviously something is going to happen. And it's like the last thing you see before you get into where you load onto the ride, which once you get in there is the building or the area where you load into the ride is massive. I mean, it is, now this ride system is very similar, basically the same ride system as Forbidden Journey. And it is, if you've ridden Forbidden Journey, where you get onto the ride there, it's kind of a lower ceiling. Like, it's not a big room. This is a massive room, and you can really see why this ride can move so many people through it, because it's just, you have a lot of ability to move people through this very quickly. And it sets a good tone. You've got the pulsating electricity in there. It's a constantly omni-mover floor, so obviously they can move people through it pretty quickly that way. But it's very impressive walking in there and just seeing how tall and big that building is. Now, when you get into the ride vehicle, the two inner seats are a little bit bigger. So if you are a bigger person, you will have more room in those two inner seats, and the ones on the outside aren't as big as those. But I will say the ride vehicle and the ride system here, when you get into it, is much more comfortable than Forbidden Journey. So I do like how that has been updated. Sometimes the Forbidden Journey ones just seemed like I was just squeezed in like a sardine. These feel, a little bit more room, a little bit more comfortable when you're on this ride. So once you get in there, you're locked in, you're ready to go. You go into the show building, and that is where you first come into contact with Dr. Victoria Frankenstein. She tells Igor to take over, and they take you through the catacombs of Frankenstein's manor. And obviously you encounter some monsters in here. You encounter the Phantom of the Opera, which is one of the cooler things. Like, he's playing the piano there and has some fire effects. Obviously you encounter Dracula. You encounter Frankenstein's monster with there's a scene where he's doing electricity. Like, that thing looks almost real. You go through, you encounter, the Wolf Man, who takes some swipes at you. You encounter the creature from the Black Lagoon. You encounter the brides of Frankenstein. Then you have the giant mummy. You know, the mummy comes down and he's massive. And there's some really cool effects here where you've got some bell tolls. You go underneath it and you can see somebody has been, you know, something happened to them inside that bell. So there's some eerie moments in here. And obviously things go awry. Dracula gets loose. So he's kind of coming after you. And there's one where Dracula comes at you and you've got the mix of the screens and the animatronics. It's very, very well done. Dracula, you know, eventually, shockingly, he is defeated by the end of the ride, but some really cool visuals and things happen along that way. And then before you know it, you're off the ride. And it's kind of the first time you ride this, at least for me, I was just being like, what is going on? There's so much stuff going on. You're kind of going side to side, kind of upside down on your back. Like you're moving around a lot, obviously. So if you do have motion sickness issues, this would be one where you could have some issues. Now, my wife has really bad motion sickness, but this ride doesn't bother her like Forbidden Journey does. Forbidden Journey will make her just sick as a dog. This one, she still takes some motion sickness stuff before she rides it, but it hasn't really bothered her too much. So I think it is smoother, and the screens here are better, I think, for motion sickness than Forbidden Journey. So if you're a little weary on that, it might be better than Forbidden Journey, but, you know, obviously that's something that you may have to just experiment on your own and figure out what works for you. But from my wife's experience, at least, it was more of an enjoyable ride for her than Forbidden Journey was. In terms of if this ride, like, could kids ride it? Like, our daughter, who's 8, she was going to ride this. As we went more into the queue, she decided not to. If you have a child that's a little bit more daring, you know, they may be just fine on this. But if you've got a child that's a little apprehensive about it, they could be a little freaked out by this. I actually think our daughter would be okay on this. Like, she loves Forbidden Journey, but some of the stuff, like, you know, Dracula and the Wolfman, some of it is could be a little scary. It kind of depends on where your kid is at. But there's not really any, you know, major, you know, scares that come out at you. Some things come at you in the ride. Obviously, some of the animatronics like swipe at you. It's kind of dark in general, and I can understand why some kids may not want to ride this, as I do think this land and this ride in general are more toward like PG-13 area. So if you got kids under 10, this may not be something that they want to do. But in terms of how it operates and rides, it's very similar to Forbidden Journey, but just much smoother and an updated ride system from that ride. You know, it doesn't have any drops in it. The ride itself is, you know, about 4 minutes long, maybe a little bit less than that. So it's a decent amount of ride time in here. Now, there is one area of this ride that I will just say, at least from the previews, that I did notice that kind of took me a little bit out of the immersion, is after the first time you encounter Dracula, you can clearly see a curtain. You can see a concrete floor, and I can even see like folding chairs over there. And just in general, I think if the lights were a little lower in this, you wouldn't be able to see around you as much. Maybe the immersion would be better, because if you are looking around in some of the scenes, you can see the ride vehicles going around and things like that, which from a technical standpoint is really cool to see. But just from an immersion standpoint, it could kind of take you out of it. But it doesn't change the fact that this is a fantastic ride. I mean, in terms of a dark ride, this is probably the best dark ride I've ever ridden. It's just very inventive in terms of the theming for the monsters and this land in general. It is a fantastic ride. Again, the first time I rode it, I just was like, I don't know what just happened, and I want to ride it again, because I feel like you're just looking around like crazy trying to see what's happening the first time you do this. So the more times you ride this, you kind of pick up on some different things here and there. But even on the 4th time through, I'm still wowed by, you know, the Phantom of the Opera and some of these things, and just the scale of this building. You will see different moments in some of these rooms where the scale is just impressive. It's a massive show building. It's a massive piece of technology running all of these things, with all the animatronics in here, the screens in here. It is very much, it's a great feat by Universal Creative pulling off this ride. In our property too, where it's not like this is a brand new IP. Like, these are old characters that have been around for a very long time, and they've been able to take those, kind of invigorate them a little bit, add a little bit of a Halloween Horror Night flair to it, you know, take some of that from it and kind of put it into a ride here. So from the building, from the outside, from the queue to the ride itself, I think this is one of the best immersive experiences you will find in a theme park. I mean, I can say for sure it is one of my top 5 attractions in any theme park I've ever ridden. Like I said, I think it's the best dark ride I've ever ridden, and I have to really sit down and think where I would rank this overall, but it is a fantastic experience. And the other good thing about this ride is it moves a lot of people through it per hour. So during our latest preview and some of the previews that I was just watching the wait times, you were seeing 20, 25-minute wait times for this. So the wait times haven't been terrible for this. It will include Express Pass. You do need to be 48 inches tall to ride this. They also have single rider line with this as well. So if you'd rather do that, sometimes that can be quicker. But I have nothing but a great time on this multiple times. I want to ride it every time I go to this park. And I think if you ride this at night, I do think it kind of sets a better tone overall, kind of the vibe of the land and everything like that. But in terms of a theme park attraction, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, this is 9.5, 9.7. I mean, you're getting really close to a 10. Like, it is a fantastic ride. It is a marvel of a ride that they were able to pull off, and is one where I think it's going to age very well and just be a great asset to this park. So I have nothing but great things to say about this ride, outside of a couple of small things that I think they could change that I think are some pretty easy fixes. But overall, if you're curious about this, not sure about this, I think it's one where even if you're on the fence about this, thinking it might be a little spooky, it's worth it. Yeah, I think you should do it at least once, and it is one of the best theme park rides you will find in a theme park, undoubtedly. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, do you agree with me about Monsters Unchained, or would you give it a lower score than I did? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.